All right, let's get into it. We are going to get into it right now, heavy and deep. I'm talking about sex. Sex and online dating. But not actually having sex, no. We're not talking about actually having sex. We're talking about talking about sex. Because that seems to be the problem, not the actual having sex. Talking about sex is what gets women upset and bothered and turns them off. Yeah, I wrote a book about it. It's called Love, Lust, or Bust, Understanding the Peculiar Behavior of Men on Dating Apps. You can find it on Amazon. It's not about necessarily sex, although that has a lot to do with it. It's just about how men behave online and why women are so confused, they get it wrong, and if they actually knew what men were thinking and how they act, I think they would do a lot better. So, let's start with the texting back and forth. When you click whatever you click like or you swipe right, doesn't matter. You two are texting. And the women ask you lots of questions that you know mean nothing. And more importantly, you don't care. I'm talking about the guy. The guy doesn't care. Women will ask you, what's your sign? And then once you tell them your sign, they tell them, oh, well, you must be this, and you must be that. Who cares? Who cares? They want to know what you do for fun, maybe what are your hobbies. It's like an interview. And every so-called relationship guru will tell you, once you get into an interview situation with a woman, it's going nowhere. It's hard to turn on the charm. It's hard to flirt when you're sitting there asking each other a bunch of questions back and forth. It goes nowhere. So guys, we ask questions that we want to actually know the answer to. I'm not saying the woman doesn't want to know the answer to those questions, but we don't care. We don't care what your sign is. We probably don't care what your hobby is. Guys tend to ask things that are a little more physical. Now, I know when that happens, the red flag goes up. Do I have a red flag? No. I should have a red flag. The red flag goes up immediately when a guy starts asking something about physicality. That doesn't necessarily mean he wants to get physical with you right away. Now, he might. But even that's not necessarily a bad thing. I know the red flag goes up, but it doesn't mean anything. And I say that in the book. It doesn't mean anything. If you block him, if you get all offended, it does you no good. That guy could still be your next husband or your next significant other. Because here's the deal. Whoever a guy wants to be, let me put it this way. Whoever a guy wants to be with long term, he wants to be physical with that person. He does, all right? So the fact that he wants to have sex with you and he's talking about it does not mean he doesn't want to be with you long term. That doesn't make any sense, right? Whoever he's going to marry, he wants to have sex with, okay? So the fact that he's talking about having sex does not mean he wouldn't marry you. You cannot determine that just by him bringing up sex. It's more complicated than that. So I know women automatically think if you talk about something physical, if you bring up sex, oh my gosh, we just met. I've barely been talking to him for a few minutes and he's already bringing up sex. Again, just because he brought it up doesn't really mean anything. Let me give you an example. Just think of whoever the latest sex symbol is. Back when I was young, really young, it was somebody like Farrah Fawcett. I'm not going to bring up the names right now. You know who they are. You know who's on social media. You know who the hottest young thing is. Who would most guys want to marry right now? Who would not just have sex with, but who would they probably want, the kind of person that they could see themselves long term with? Do you tell me? Now, if that guy was to meet her, would he want to have sex with her? Of course he would. Of course he would. Is he going to think to himself, oh, she's so beautiful, she's so gorgeous, she could be my next wife. I'd rather wait 2 months. Does that happen? Yeah, it can happen, but realistically, no. That's not most guys, religious or non-religious. That's just not most guys. There are guys who will have sex with you on the first date and could still possibly marry you. There's a lot of relationships that started where they met somewhere, it wasn't a one-night stand because they kept seeing each other. They liked each other so much that they did the thing, saw each other the next day, did the thing, saw each other the next day, and kept seeing each other and kept seeing each other, and eventually realized this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. And they had sex the first night or maybe the second night. So you can't determine, just because he's talking about sex right away does not mean anything. Now, usually you could say it might mean something because we're supposed to be on our best behavior. And so if we're not on our best behavior, that could mean he doesn't really care. Now that's true. So there is a possibility. If he's bringing up a lot of that stuff right away, it's possible he feels he has nothing to lose, so why not? But you can't immediately assume that because, again, think of whoever this hottest young thing is that he would marry. He still wants to have sex with her. He doesn't want to wait. He does not want to wait. And so just the fact that he's talking about it, just the fact that he could take you to bed the first day or the second day means nothing because his next wife he could still take to bed the first night or the second night. So you can't go by that. You have to talk to this person, have a conversation, kind of figure out how they feel about you. That's what's more importantly, not the fact that they're talking about sex. How does he feel about you? And you can only judge that by, once you guys start talking. But if you block him right away and you get all offended, I mean, it happens all the time. It happens that's just the female thing to do. And frankly, I don't get it. And I write about it in the book. So I'm going to give you some tips, ladies. I'm going to give you some tips. Here's what you should do. The fact that you guys are talking means you're at least a little bit interested, right? Or you would have swiped a different way, or you wouldn't have clicked like, you wouldn't be chatting with them, because most ladies, if they're not interested, they're going to ignore you. So the fact that you're talking to him means that he's at least decent looking, something about his profile caught your attention. So it makes no sense at all to automatically cut him off, get all offended, saying, oh, he's being disrespectful over something that really isn't disrespectful. Think about it. Is the question he's asking you or what he's saying actually disrespectful, or are you considering it disrespectful because he's asking it when you just met? There's a difference. There are some questions that you can ask or talk about that's disrespectful, period. Even a month later, 2 months later, that would still be disrespectful. But is it just because he's bringing it up right now? In that case, I advise in the book just to let it slide. Just to let it slide. Flirt. Where's your flirt game? Where is your flirt game? It doesn't mean you have to say yes or even answer him. Let me give you an example. Guy asks you, are you affectionate? Well, some women get offended right away and they're like, oh, here we go. And their next question is, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? Well, maybe he's looking for someone who's affectionate. Just because your first question is, what's your sign? Maybe he just came out of a relationship where there was no affection. Maybe that's the most important thing to him in this next relationship. It's possible. It's possible. But if he listens to everybody else and does what you would want him to do, he's not supposed to bring that up until you've been talking for a while. So now he's got to waste his time and talk about all these things he doesn't care anything about. And the problem is you're going to say that's shallow because He only cares about this physical stuff. Yes, that's not shallow. That's a man. That's a man. That's not shallow. You can say you can say whatever you want. There is, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. But for some reason, when you're online, it's different. I don't get it. I don't get it. Everybody knows. There's like a running joke, and then if you go to a comedy show or something, it comes up all the time. What does a man need? What? Sex and food, right? That's it. Everybody knows that. So now you're going to tell me one of the things he needs the most in his life, one of the things that is the most important thing in his life, he can't talk about it to you because he just met you. How does that make any sense? If he's going to pick you, he's got to decipher. He's online. Who knows how many women he said hi to? Who knows how many people he's typing to? That's not a bad thing. That's what it's for. It's like a job interview. You're weeding out the people. You can't talk to everybody. You have to weed them out. You can't go out with everybody. You have to weed them out. So how's he going to weed them out? He doesn't care what your sign is. He doesn't really care what your hobby is. That's not shallow. He does not care. You can do your thing. Once you guys get married or you're together, you can do your thing and he can do his. And it's not necessarily that he doesn't care. Those are secondary. Remember, the guy who said that I said maybe he came out of a relationship that had no affection. So now affection is his number one thing. Now he still may want to do stuff with his significant other. He may want to, whatever, go to a game with her, go to sports bars with her, go whatever you're into, go hiking. But that's not number one. It may not be number two. It may not even make the top 5. For that guy, affection is number one. But according to women, he can't talk about it. He can't talk about it. Makes no sense. It makes no sense. So what I was saying, what I would advise is, I say in my book, you saw the movie Wonder Woman where she's just blocking all the bullets. That's what I say. I say block in a flirty way. That's what I say. You kind of just, you know how a politician doesn't really answer the question? They answer, but they really don't give you any information? That's what you should do. Unless you want to give them the information. I mean, again, it depends on what the question is. You can just say, oh, you naughty boy, you naughty boy. No, yeah, I don't answer that right away. Maybe tomorrow, maybe we keep talking, I'll answer that one. If you answer the question that way, he's not gonna get mad. That's actually, he's like, ooh, okay, all right. You know, you can answer a question in a flirty way. Who knows what a guy might bring up? I don't know, I'm not there. I talk to him and I don't talk. Let's just say you guys have just met and he asks you if you've ever seen the movie 50 Shades of Grey. And you're probably gonna go, oh my gosh, here we go. He's talking about sex. We've barely been chatting and he's already asking me, am I into submission? But maybe that's his thing. So how long does he have to wait? So he's gotta talk with you for 2 or 3 days just to figure out if you're even the type of person he wants to be with? What if that's really his thing? He can't bring it up because that's disrespectful? I'm serious. That's his thing. How long does he have to wait? Because there's hundreds or thousands of women on this site. You immediately get upset, you get defensive because he's bringing this up. But this is what's important to him. It's like a job interview, and for the boss or the supervisor, it is very important that the next person that they hire has this particular skill. And you might be like, what? That? Yes, that. If that's what's important to them, that's what's important to them. That's what they're going to hire the next person based off of. Well, this guy had no affection with his ex-wife for 15, 20 years. Maybe their sex life was terrible, and he's like, nah, man, not doing that again. Not doing that again. I'm making sure the next person I marry is going to be like this, like that, and like that. Well, how long does he have to wait to find that out? I'm not talking about actually find out in person. I'm not talking about actually, that's what I said at the beginning. I'm not talking about actually having sex. I'm talking about talking, just talking about sex.